So without further ado, let's get going with the first match. The first player coming right up is the self-professed top APAC player, it's tom60229.
Tom way ahead in that points race. He can talk the big talk, but he can back it up as well.
And his opponent, 2015 America's champion, it's Purple.
The mad scientist of Canadian Hearthstone. Purple scrapped his way through against the odds, and now he thinks it's his destiny to take his place on that World Championship stage.
We are about to find out. Let's kick off the first match of Championship Sunday.
Quarterfinal number 1, tom60229 versus Purple.
不管遇到 Purple 还
It doesn't matter that I'm playing Purple or anyone else. I just want to play to the best of my ability. I want to be prepared and hope for the best.
Next match is Tom. He got like top 10 on ladder and he got tournament finishes throughout the year. So he's like really strong.
My ultimate goal is in January at the Worlds, so that's all I want to achieve.
Having another chance to go to the Worlds would mean more to me this time because last time around, didn't put in the performance I wanted, didn't win the trophy I wanted. 2017, let's give it another try. And it's just money in the bank if I qualify again, right?
tom60229 versus Purple. Let's see what you got.
Championship Sunday is upon us. Welcome back, everybody, to Day 3 of the Hearthstone Championship Tour Summer Championship. My name is Frodan. I'm joined by Brian Kibler, and we have this first best of 5 to determine who is going to the World Championship, who is going to get one step closer to calling themselves the King of Summer. Kibler, with Tom versus Purple, this is pretty much as high stacked as it gets with our 8 players remaining.
Yeah, this is, as Sottle said in the opening, potentially a worthy finals of this tournament. Both of these players performing exceptionally well. Tom bringing a lineup that has been kind of the talk of the tournament among many of the players. A lot of people saying that they feel like his Kazakus Mage deck was just a brilliant choice.
That's right, and the fact that a lot of people didn't prepare for a Highlander Mage is going to throw people out for quite the curveball here. Purple, of course, bringing quite the standard list, but he's got his own innovations that have really got that cutting-edge new technology. We've been talking about it all weekend, but for people who don't know, he's been trying to play a little bit of extra tech. It might not come into play this series because it seems like the Priest has been banned, but who knows, that Auctioneer might be a big role of maybe Purple winning the championship. Also worth noting as well, tom60229 has actually been doing very well with his win rate too. He hasn't actually been dropping a lot of games. He's currently at the best win rate in the tournament at 6 games won and 2 games lost.
Yeah, and Purple has decks that are, as you mentioned, pretty heavily teched in certain matchups. He's playing Cairn Bloodhoof in a lot of his decks, more than you might expect. A lot of people have put Cairn into Rogue as just a solid minion that guarantees you most of the time a target for Bone Mare on turn 7. He's also playing it in Shaman, so just trying to give himself more durable minions to keep his board around.
Yeah, the Cairn Barn Sea Giant package in Shaman, that's also cutting-edge technology. So let's see if that comes into play at all during the series, as Shaman has been a class that's been very high day 1, had a very low day 2, and we'll see what happens in day number 3 going into it, as we'll head into Druid versus Priest. And, you know, as much as I like to say that a lot of the matchups on paper favor Purple, it varies across the board because that's only ladder statistics, and this is a meta where you can control a lot of those percentage points based on how well you're piloting the deck.
Yeah, there's lots of different ways that you can gain an edge in terms of your specific way you approach matchups. One of the things that we've seen quite a bit over the course of this tournament is actually Priest beating Druid through just playing more aggressively. A lot of players have, you know, not held back Anduin in order to try and get a board clear on big Jades, even though their opponent is going into those later Jade turns. Instead, they've recognized they need to go on the offense. They can't win a long game of attrition, so they're just trying to burn their opponent out.
All right, Tom has a very decent opening hand. If he doesn't have the ideal pieces, the best thing you can look for is card draw. And the reason why is to dig through your deck, and also to be able to have a very good hand to support Raza and Anduin. Jade Druid's going to try to get onto the board, and they will eventually win the board. It's all about how you get to that point where you can finally start either pressuring the life total or maybe control the board yourself as Priest and get a little damage in.
Yeah, crucially here, too, Purple has no mana acceleration. He does not have Wild Growth. He does not have Jade Blossom. He doesn't have Nourish. So he's going to have to just go mana for mana with Tom, and that's not what the Jade Druid deck wants to do. It wants to ramp out in front and get its big minions in play quickly to get the pressure on.
Some minor decisions here being made from Tom of whether or not he wants to play the Loot Hoarder versus Novice. Loot Hoarder draw isn't always immediate versus Novice is, so you can try to get the Loot Hoarder out first. Novice opens up your mana a lot more in future turns.
There's also an argument that Tom could have played the Curious Glimmerroot that turn.
True.
Curious Glimmerroot, A, is a 3/3, so it can help put pressure on. B, can potentially find you one of the mana ramp cards from your opponent's deck, which could allow you to get your own development going more quickly. The fact that the Acolyte of Pain came down from Tom, I think meant that his goal was to try to prevent his opponent from being able to play any Jades without removing the Acolyte first, otherwise giving him free draws.
Yeah, Jade Spirit is the most common turn 4 that you would expect on curve from Jade Druid, and that would throw a big wrench into things.
Kuhn is kind of interesting. Oh wait,
it's not
actually Purple's deck, right?
Kepler.
Well,
In
no,
fact,
I was
you
looking at
remind
it. I didn't even see the spreading plague. I just saw Kuhn. I was like, oh yeah, that's the card that like you know, you can take in his deck. That is the Curious Glimmerroot, most confusing card in the world. You're like, ooh, I can get whatever card I want. It's like, no, actually, that one's not in Purple's deck. He does have different end game than that. The Primordial Drake was his choice.
Very true, and the Kuhn the Forgotten King is also something that's been played a lot throughout this tournament as a tech decision. A lot of times for for Mirror, for being able to get onto the board and get a lot of big swings with Ultimate Infestation, Tom gonna value an early Lyra the Sun Shard, getting value and tempo.
This is due to the fact that Tom has already seen a copy of Swipe used, which means that Purple is going to have the second copy of Swipe and use his entire turn to kill Lyra. Purple doesn't have it, which means Tom gets a powerful Lyra turn right here.
He also had 2 Wraths
that
were used as well. Double Wrath and Swipe being used. How does your opponent deal with Lyra? This is excellent recognition from Tom. And now Purple's caught in a very awkward spot. And I mean, this could have potential to run away or at least just get immense value to the point where Tom will never have to struggle with resources.
Yeah, he does have Shadow Word Death he can use to remove the Lyra. He can even attack into the 2/2 alongside that and play the Binding Heal he got off of Lyra.
The end is coming!
All right, he's just going to go ahead and set up a Doomsayer here. So I think his plan now is actually just to try to play this Prophet Valen on an empty board.
Yeah, I mean, Lyra was hard to deal with just a 5 health minion, but I mean, it's not like Purple's playing big game hunter like some of the Jade Druids used to do at the beginning of the expansion. And so, this kind of throws Purple up for a loop. That Doomsayer and trade from Lyra was not something I was expecting, but it's recognition of, again, my opponent can't remove things.
One key point here, too, is that Tom had a full hand. So if Tom had just played Lyra spells, he would have burned his next card. He had to actually play a non-spell card or trade off his Lyra there in order to ensure that he didn't risk burning something. And he doesn't have many of his key cards.
I mean, it's so hard to try to deny yourself the value that you can gain, but look at this Prophet Valen, and what kind of matchup is this? Priest is playing proactive without Shadow Reaper Anduin.
We have actually seen quite a few tempo Valens in this particular matchup. Omega Zero had a great maneuvering of a game against Orange yesterday when he was able to stick a Prophet Valen that was very difficult for his Druid opponent to destroy. Now with both Wraths and 1 Swipe gone, Purple has no combination of cards here that can actually just kill the Valen on this board.
Yes, at least not guaranteed, right? Because he has Primordial Drake, and if his opponent doesn't heal, then he could do something to it. But that's so optimistic, and Tom has complete control of this game right now. Although I will say, I will say that Primordial Drake is one of the most problematic minions for a Priest to deal with.
It is, and Tom, he does have a Spirit Lash. He can potentially attack into this, Binding Heal his minions, Spirit Lash, clear off this, but that's a lot of investment.
I think it's fine because you keep Prophet Valen onto the board.
You do, which is true, and that's exactly what Tom is going to do. Just protect his gigantic 7/7, double his spells minion. Ooh, he thought so. Not even just Nourish,
wow.
Vandal Nourish. He can actually effectively play a cheap Nourish next turn and develop himself a Fandral.
Yeah, you know, you don't have to compromise on, you know, getting resources in terms of value and tempo. You can actually get both with Fandral. And Purple has to swipe preemptively just to keep Tom's mana in check, forcing his opponent to dedicate to healing.
A big part of what this does is prevents Tom from being able to attack and then heal, and thus get his Valen up to full health. This way, Tom has to heal and then attack, which means his Valen will be exposed to the 4/4.
And also frees up his hand for Ultimate Infestation. Purple's hand was looking very heavy. This Pine-sized potion, just unusual amount of creative uses for a lot of these cards that we're not used to expecting. Pine-sized potion just for tempo.
And just Mind Blast you 10.
Boom.
Boom.
Blast 10. Not even gonna wait for the combo because he realizes if Prophet Valen dies this turn anyways, Mind Blast is just gonna get 10.
Right, and their Infestation is here for Purple. He can take down Prophet Valen with the Infestation plus his 4/4 Jade Golem. Ends up with a 5/5 for his trouble, but that runs right into the Shadow Reaper Anduin that's waiting in Tom's hand.
Yeah, and this is something that was brilliantly spotted by Purple too, having the patience to recognize that it's not going to be game over as long as I can take it out. And now a huge part of Tom's win condition has been eliminated, which is Prophet Valen doing 30+ damage to kill the Jade.
Look at the expression of Purple's face. He's like, really? You got Fandral and Nourish? Oh, and Tom finds Raza as well, so he has all of the pieces. Just draws a bunch of cards, has the board against Purple, so he's able to get in minion damage even, and potentially has the Anduin and Raza to follow things up. And the Jades from Purple aren't even big yet. There's not even huge threats from his side because he spent the early turns having to fight back against Tom's board. He was never able to ramp because he didn't find that early man acceleration.
It's still reasonable. The next Jade will be a 5/5, so it's still big enough that Priest could deal with it reasonably without having to commit huge things to the board.
It's actually kind of a problem for Purple that his Jades are 5/5 because they do run right into Anduin, which is in Tom's hand.
That's true. But, well, I mean, Purple hasn't even seen Raza yet, so, but at the same time, your opponent just drew 3 cards from Nourish with Fandral, has tempo onto the board, didn't have to compromise either, and there's still that one card also that Tom stole from the Curious Glimmerroot that Purple has to factor in, if he's even considering it right now, because I think right now he's considering what's the best 10 mana, or the way to best use his 10 mana, and there's a defensive play he can set up because he has 2 Spreading Plagues in. Usually when you set up the Spreading Plagues, you can try to go for a big swing with Doomsayer, but your opponent also drew a ton of cards, so you're not really optimistic about your chances to land this Doomsayer either, because he could have Shadow Word Pain or Silence.
It's a really interesting play from Purple here. He recognizes, okay, well, at least if I'm walking into an Anduin, then yeah, I'm clearing off your board or forcing to use a bunch of damage on this this Doomsayer. Though there's even a Silence in Tom's hand. So pretty much everything Purple wanted from that turn went poorly because the Silence, originally, his first Silence he used on Aya was off of the Lyra, so he has the second Silence for the Doomsayer and is now just able to push a bunch of damage.
Well, this is a lot. There's a lot of like next level thinking going on here because Purple is accounting for the Shadow Reaper Anduin threat, and so because of that, normally when you play a lot of wide boards of Jades, you end up getting wiped. But in this case, he stuck a couple of 2/3s. However, because the Doomsayer is also silenced onto the board, that makes his Spreading Plagues weaker. So there's some back and forth here of who's going to be able to get ahead. And once again, this is such an unusual game for Jade Druid versus Highlander Priest, but I'm loving it.
And now with the Malfurion, the hero power makes it so that Purple is able to mitigate quite a bit of the damage possibility from the Anduin, even with the Raza.
Oh man.
Shadow Visions, though, that can potentially find
Shadow Word
board. Yep.
And with Raza coming down too, Tom's going to start adding a ton of burst. Rain Elemental to dig for a spell. I think Shadow Word Horror would be too expensive now, though.
Yeah, he's 1 mana short of being able to play Horror at this point. Finds Pain, which does...
Gets damage in, too.
Yeah, it does allow him to push damage along with the Potion of Madness. This is not quite lethal yet.
It's not quite lethal, but Tom's also
getting very close.
Kind of going all in this, too. And I do find it hard for Purple to deal with this board, but in some world that he does, this is pretty much Tom's big push to end the game.
Well, he still has Anduin. You know, Purple is at 4. At most, he can play Ultimate Infestation, go to 9. There aren't many spells in Tom's hand that are cheap. most of his hand is actually quite expensive, so he can't really burst down.
Purple's gonna almost deck himself out too here, just drawing the rest of his cards really.
He did shuffle in a Jade Idol.
Oh, you're right.
There's no risk of, as we saw earlier in the weekend, there being one Jade Idol and that getting burned.
Is this enough from Tom? If he hero powers, Dragon Fires, hero powers. Oh, with the Thanos, I wonder if that's actually doesn't change anything.
No, there's 9 life from Purple, so the hero power, Dragon Fire, hero power kills the Fandral, so he only gets 7 in. He's 2 off lethal, just busting through in that case. But he can actually just kill the...
Wow, look at me. I'm the Druid now.
Yeah.
Spreading Plague to deny Purple from getting any good trades. We've been pressuring his life total, and I think this is just, for a lot of Highlander priests who lose to Jade Druid a majority of the time, therapeutic
Down
to witness this kind of harassment.
For Purple, and not really any realistic way for him to come back. He can only gain 3 armor from his hero power, but Tom has the machine gun online. There it is. Tom takes the first game in this quarterfinals.
Crucial victory as the Highlander priest once again able to overcome the odds of a quote unfavored matchup, and for the most part it largely is, but I gotta tip my cap to Tom. He played that completely different than I thought he would, even from the get-go. When you have Lyra on the board, an opportunity to get even more value, he sets up a Doomsayer to play Tempo Valen with no guarantee that he's going to be able to close the game outside the fact that he makes a read on Purple's hand.
And it worked out really well. He was able to play the game much more aggressively, much more proactively, and that's how we have seen Priest players win this matchup this weekend. We've seen them push for damage, push for aggression, rather than try to react to the never-ending aggression from the Jade Druid.
All right, well, that was just the first game of this best of 5. We're gonna find out what happens in the rest of the series as Tom takes the first game and Purple can only look and watch. Tom is currently up 1-0 over Purple as he takes Highlander Priest over Jade Druid to kick off this best of 5, but the best is yet to come to see what's gonna happen between Tom's Mage in this series. And I wanna see how Purple has prepared for it too. One thing Purple also mentioned to me was that he's not going to over practice because he knows that Tom's a really good player, and any kind of last minute preparation that he could do wouldn't give him a significant edge otherwise.
Yeah, he was saying that he hadn't really even played Hearthstone for days leading up to this tournament. He said he watched Orange play, and that was enough for him. That was his preparation had been done prior to the deck list being submitted, and now he's just here to keep his mind relaxed and get to the games.
Yeah, and while we have a second to resolve some of the tech issues, let's take a look at just how far in the lead tom60229 is for the Asia Pacific region. For last call, the way it works for anybody unfamiliar with the HCT system is that whoever is leading in points at the end of the year gets a guaranteed invite to the World Championships at the end of the year. And this only applies to the 3 regions, not to China. They have their own qualifier system for the Gold League series. But for tom60229, he's so far ahead, and because he's also qualified for top 8 here, he's gotten so many points that no matter what Aqua, Blitzchung, Peeping Ho, etc. do, they can't catch him.
Yeah, and if Tom is to win this match, he will get a qualification based on his finish here, which means the last call spot will drop down to the next highest player. We see currently Aqua is in the lead. You see that little asterisk at the bottom, Surrender, currently at 73 points. He's in the top 8 here. He goes to 81. There is still a major championship available for these players to accumulate points later in the month. So there is still a chance if Surrender was to lose his match later, he could get that last call spot.
All right, well, Tom actually sat down and talked to us about this specific instance. Check out what he had to say.
Last call awards the top point earner in each region a spot in the World Championships if they haven't already qualified. There is no one who can catch me, so I'll be going to Worlds regardless of how I perform here. Once I learned how last call worked, I worked hard to get to be first in my region. It wasn't easy to get those points, but it was a good way to try and make Worlds. There is a little less pressure for me in the Summer Championships. However, I enjoy playing in tournaments, and this one has a really big prize pool. Also, I can earn another spot in the Worlds for my region, so I really want to play as best I can.
对，我相
The
信
players behind me in the standings really want me to qualify here, because then they have a chance to go to Worlds.
我还是照着
I'm going to approach the game the same way I always do.
我比较希望
I will do my best to play well, and if I do that and lose, I'll be okay with the result. If I do that and win, it will be even better.
Tom essentially gets a free roll to see if he can get a lot of money and maybe even make it easier on some of his friends or rivals, perhaps. So even if Tom gets stopped here, he's still going to the World Championship because of the last call. However, for Purple, it's a different story. Tom can play the spoiler and the victor at the same time.
And I have to wonder how much that does for your mindset. I mean, we were just talking about how Purple didn't want to play too much leading up to this tournament. He's just been relaxing, not playing outside of the actual event. He does have to win this, though, and the pressure's on him to get to the World Championship. Tom, though, he can just be relaxed. He knows he's going already.
Well, we're going to see what this mage can do right now as we get to take a look at game 2 in action. Purple with a very fast 4 keep.
Yep.
And he didn't throw away a single card in his opening mulligan.
He snapped that right off. He has a perfect curve, Firefly into Keleseth, into Captain, into Coin, Scalebane here. And this is the sort of curve that can sometimes give the Kazakus Mage deck trouble because you don't have consistent access to a lot of your early removal. This is actually one of the matchups where, in my experience, playing a bit with the Highlander Mage deck, that it is quite strong. But if you don't draw the right part of your deck early in the game, it can be a problem.
Well, Tom has a decent early game plays as well, so we'll see who ends up coming out ahead. Purple's gotten a couple of really powerful ways to build the board, though, with double Captain now. And you mentioned the Cobalt Scalebane curve.
Speak to me.
So that patches is going to be a guaranteed 3-3.
And that will take out the Acolyte of Pain without giving Tom more than one additional card. We see some of the interesting choices from Purple's list here. Prince Valinar.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
Well, we've talked a bit about how the 4-slot for Rogue is pretty weak. Valinar offers you a little bit of defensive tools for mirror matches, the life game. But speaking of defensive tools, Tom picks up the Kazakus right on time, right on turn 4. I didn't actually get a chance to see exactly what modes were offered him. I did see 5 damage.
Yep,
but if
summon 5/5, summon 2 friendly back. But the more important thing,
no AoE?
No AoE. He can't clear the board. So he has essentially discovered a primordial glyph and somehow given him the 5-mana Firelance portal.
With a good result, at least. But
pretty decent.
But this particular mage deck, in this particular matchup, is very focused on tempo. You really need to be able to contain your opponent's early aggression and get to the later stages where you can leverage your powerful tools like Frostlet's Jaina and Medivh. And here, Purple has such a powerful opening that even this Kazakus potion without the AoE effect is not going to be enough to answer this board. That is a buffed Scalebane. It was the one that Purple drew after his opening hand when he had played the Keleseth. So the 5 damage cannot remove it with this Kazakus potion.
Yeah, that's a really important heads-up distinction. And a lot of people always talk about, there's not too much difference of playing one versus the other if you have both copies. You usually want to play the one you kept to disrupt hand reading. But in this instance, very relevant for having that 6 health on that dragon.
And the fact that these Cobalt Scalebanes are spreading out threat means that a lot of Tom's single target removal is not nearly as effective as it otherwise would be. If Tom could have just fireballed the Scalebane, if that was the only real threat, he would have been very happy with that. But the problem was that there was also the buffed Captain. And now, just even more big minions coming with this Scalebane buff on this turn.
I do feel like Tom does have the tools to turn it back. He's got Ice Block and Frostlet's Jaina, which can help turn the tides. He's got Blizzard and Frostbolt with some removal to stall. So it feels like the pieces are there to some capacity to try and make a comeback. It just feels like he doesn't have enough time yet.
Right. That's what Tom is really lacking here. He needs time. And that's why the very strong curve from Purple is putting him in a rough spot. With these difficult to deal with Scalebanes. He could just fireball Frostbolt here, which I think may be what we'll see. Yeah, gonna go ahead and take almost all of the damage off the board, leaving Purple with just 2 attack effectively on that Tar Creeper, but there's another Scalebane in the hand. Oh, and Leroy.
Oh, how much damage is this?
That is a lot of burst. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's lethal.
That's lethal. Just like that. the game is over. This is the most one-sided matchup in favor of purple in terms of the matchup spread, so but I didn't expect it to end this quickly. It was a turn 6 kill.
That was a beatdown. That went very badly for Tom, and very badly for Raven's prediction that that deck would not lose a game.
Yeah, very one-sided. The Highlander Mage deck's #1 concern is the amount of pressure that can come out early. It struggled a lot with, you know, Pirate Warrior and Aggro Shaman in the early days, and they teched heavily against that. But then they also struggle with some of the late game options like Jade Druid. So it kind of hits this weird pocket of like, it can get pushed out, it can also lose in the late game. That's why it's such a weird deck.
In order to be competitive in the matchup, you really need some of the early plays. You need a Mana Worm, you need an Arcanologist, you need a Doomsayer, you need a Galactic Crawler. Tom's turn 2 play was a Blood Mage Thalnos, and he was just not able to answer anything proactively, had to just play reactive spells. Purple's Keleseth in particular kept him ahead of that.
Huge win for Purple, keeps him competitive in the series, and you heard about how he wants to get back to that World Championship. And as we get ready set for game number 3, take a look at what Purple had to say.
People say I'm the favorite to win the tournament. I mean, who said I was good at Hearthstone? Oh, I don't think I'm that good. I'm over the hill. I'm 26. I'm washed. Going into it, 2015 World Championships, I was uncontestably the best player in the world, basically. And I sucked at the game. I brought some stupid decks and I lost.
Oh, goodness!
Oh, man.
That is it. Ping Ping Ho is going to win 3-1 over the America's champion, Purple.
I kind of took the last year and a half off competitive hours and I didn't try too hard. I started working at it again like 2 months ago, 3 months ago. I'm very different as a Hearthstone player than I used to be. I used to focus too much on little details, and now I don't overthink too many things, just hit people in the face.
10-0 for Purple. Didn't drop a match. Absolutely amazing play from Purple.
My Hearthstone career won't be complete until I get my first World Championship. I'll probably retire as soon as I get it. Thinking this might be my last go at the World Championship.
Let me get this clear. So Purple says in 2015, which he was at the young, ripe age of 24, that he was uncontestably the best player in the world. Now, he takes a year and a half off, and he says he wasn't trying too hard, he was just kind of taking it in. It's true, he was streaming and, you know, relaxing a lot more, hanging out. And then he says, I'm too old, I'm over the hill, I'm washed at 26, even though he took a year and a half off to relax. And then also he said he's not going to retire until he wins a World Championship, but this is also his last World Championship run. So is this like a crazy like mind game here that he's just setting up back and forth because he's just going to win this year's World Championship?
Sometimes it seems like everything Purple says is a mind game. You never really know what you can take seriously. I mean, I remember when we interviewed him prior to this, someone asked, oh, who do you think the top 5 players in the US are? And he said, oh, Kibler for sure. I'm like, what?
Yeah, his first round pick overall in the 2017 Purple draft goes to Brian Kibler of Brian Kibler Gaming.
I was like, I appreciate it. I haven't played a competitive match in years, but
yeah. And
he's a funny guy, though.
It's like, Kibler for sure, and yeah, let's just throw Firebat.
Maybe Firebat,
throw Firebat in there, why not?
Former world champion.
And he started pointing to other people in the room like, Admirable, you're okay. And, Frozen, you're actually good at Hearthstone. I was like, what? This is not helping us.
All right, well, this will be a matchup where Tom may be looking for some help. This can be a tough one, the Mage deck against the Druid. If you have some of your key cards, specifically Medivh is one of the most important cards in this matchup for Tom because it allows him to have tempo swings while using removal spells. This is a fairly strong draw from Purple already, though, with the Jade Idol into Wild Growth.
Yeah, this is something that we brought up last time Tom played on stage, which is the fact that he bans Priest and not Druid despite playing the Control or Highlander Mage. And it feels like a common theme amongst people bringing Control Mage. They feel a lot more comfortable banning the Priest, which is just interesting considering that historically Control Mages excelled against Priest. And in this case, he'd rather play against Jade Druid. What's that all about?
I think a big part of it is the way in which your deck can operate in each of the matchups. You can be an aggressor much more effectively against Jade Druid because you have tools to push the tempo like the Medivh, like Frost's Jaina even. If you play a long game and your opponent doesn't have a really overwhelmingly powerful draw, you can end up just running away with it with these end game cards you see on the screen right here. And against Mage, or rather against Priest, though, they have so much to sustain against your minions, sustain against your burn damage, that it's a lot harder to take them down. Ooh, Purple with a clutch draw. Wild Growth into Aya next turn, taking him from having very little in the way of threat to having very powerful one coming down soon.
Yeah, I mean, he had Aya guaranteed, but he was also going to be sitting duck for the following turn. And the more you can smooth out your curve, the better. This is the second Jade Idol.
It is the second Jade Idol. I think we might, yeah, he's going to see him shuffle it in. This is a matchup where you do often need to go very long because there is enough removal in the Mage deck to pressure the natural number of Jades your deck generates.
There is no Skulking Dice in Tom's Mage deck, but what he can do is a situation that I have seen a fair amount of times, which is letting your opponent kind of build up Jade board, but chain freezing. Freezes are some of the most important thing you can hold on to in this matchup.
And this is a very important moment. Tom is using his Frostbolt to protect the Doomsayer. On the turn, he's going into 7 mana plus coin. Being able to develop Medivh onto a board where your opponent has nothing is incredibly powerful in this matchup.
This is actually a big moment. Tom can now turn the tide. You see him nodding. He's really happy with how this went. And the game's been kind of fast and furious, but this is where the game truly starts, in my opinion. Can Mage launch an assault before the inevitable March of the Jades?
Yeah, and this is very important to note that it is in fact the Mage who is the aggressor in this matchup. And crucially, Purple, with that Wild Growth, ramps him to 10 this turn. He can cast the Ultimate Infestation this turn. Chooses not to. He's going to go ahead and double Jade here. This allows Tom to set up a secret, which is Counterspell. Counterspell is now actually good, by the way, against Jade Druid and the Ultimate Infestation. Prior to the Innervate nerf, when Innervate was essentially in all these decks, even going to a 10-mana turn, your opponent would often just be able to Innervate first, then cast Infestation. You can't do that now. There's no way that you can test for Counterspell and cast Infestation in the same turn. And we see the setup of that that Counterspell here.
Excuse me, you are on fire.
Wow, and because of the way it's timed, it could be anything.
Right.
It could be Ice Barrier, it could be Ice Block. It does feel like you could make the read of Counterspell, but even then, you'd still like to address the board somehow. So if you swipe and it gets Counterspell, then
look at Purple staring across the table at Tom, trying to get a read. What is this secret?
Yeah, Tom's feeling a little loose. Tax, no Ice Barrier, so it's Ice Block and Counterspell. Staring across again to see if you can get a little bit more information.
And there's no way to know whether this is block or Counterspell. You can't test for Ice Block here. And Purple, oh, he's like, all right, what is that? Look at his face. Tom's laughing.
How do you keep a straight face?
Trying to get the read there. He's like, come on, what is it? What's your secret? And Tom's like, I will give you no secret.
Are you sure? He
Find
smiled.
out for yourself.
He smiled a little bit, and that's something for me.
Yeah, I mean, Purple may have just gotten the read there. He may have been able to tell by Tom's reaction, the fact that these two players are sitting across from each other. It's like, all right, I will not play my 10-mana spell into your secret. And he successfully defends.
I feel like the tables can flip so fast here on both sides because of how explosive Ultimate Infestation is. But just look at Tom's hand.
Well,
he has all the bombs. He had Medivh, Frostlich Jaina, and Alex Straza.
One big thing here, Tom can, because of this Doomsayer, Tom can play Frostlich Jaina here. Tom could, if he wanted to, just play Jaina into this board, get the board cleared, but have the Jaina ability up. I think he might not do that because he does suspect the Ultimate Infestation from Purple.
Oh, Unwilling Sacrifice. That's interesting.
That is interesting.
It's powerful removal. That's also powerful removal.
Pain, speak to me.
And he goes wide onto the board.
Tom recognizes Purple wants to cast that Ultimate Infestation. He decides to build a wide board so that only one minion will die to the big spell Purple wants to cast. Though Spreading Plague definitely can make the wide board less threatening, but not before it at least gets one crack at it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Mage really cares about these, like the Spreading Plague. In fact, that's kind of a good sign because that means he's not getting pressured significantly. What really starts getting serious is the fact that Purple Jades are at 6/6 now.
There's Kazaka's Potion, though, and Jaina coming down on a board that's not super threatening.
That's right, and the Water Elemental trains can come down. And keep in mind, Tom has held on to that Blizzard as long as he could, and he still has yet to hit his Frost Novas. He's just as deep into the deck as Purple, who used Ultimate Infestation. things are looking good for Tom, but if there's one thing I've learned is to never truly count out Jade Druid, especially if they don't have to worry about Skulking Geist or any other way to kill their Jade combos.
Malfurion, also a very powerful card in this matchup, allowing you to just keep punching face against the opponent. Becomes much weaker once Jaina is down, though, because the value of damage sticking to your opponent's face is much lower when they have the elementals with lifesteal.
And then you start have to worrying about with the hero powers and how you can offset them. Purple's biggest priority is how do I pressure while not letting my opponent just summon more water elementals? And then I have to factor in, what if he has freezes? Am I going to be in trouble there?
Yeah, Frostless Jaina creates a weird mini-game where all you want is to try to ensure that there are no minions that can somehow get to 1 health.
Yeah. And see, Purple's prioritizing, like, I actually don't care if I lose my 5/5 because I don't want you to ever get the initiative with water elementals. So he plays his Doomsayer, despite having played a Spreading Plague. And it makes sense, too, since he has 2 Plagues, and it's very rare that he'll be this far behind on board.
Right. I would not be surprised to even potentially see the Meteor fired off from Tom to just clear this Doomsayer. Look at a 6-drop from Atiyesh. You do want to try to take advantage of Atiyesh and cast your more expensive spells while the Atiyesh is around, rather than playing cheap things like Primordial Glyph. There is, of course, the threat of your opponent making gigantic Jades. So obviously Meteor is one of your big possible removal spells for that. But Tom will be able to, if he were to Meteor, clear off the Doomsayer as well as... Ooh, he's going for 10. He does still have the Atiyesh. 10 is a very big spell. He's going to go with the Meteor anyway.
He's got to summon an 8/8 as well. That's such big tempo. And all of a sudden, maybe Tom's going to be the one coming ahead with big, large men on the board. Because, I mean, Purple's got 6/6 Jades. And not a lot of ways to conveniently remove or deal 2 damage.
And one of the very powerful things about that 10-minute Kazakus potion is that the sheep in play are pingable by the Jaina ability.
Oh, yeah.
Polymorph everything, and suddenly
You're
all
right.
of these 1/1s that are on the board that were formerly gigantic Jade Golems are able to just turn into water elementals at your whim. But Purple, he's trying to go over the top. He's trying to dig to build enough Jades that he can stymie the pressure of Tom, as well as get his own attacks going through.
He knows he can't stop this water elemental, so instead just prioritizes setting up for big pressure.
I mean, this is a Blizzard opportunity. He can go ahead and make a water elemental off of the Scarab. He does not get a 10 mana potion result from the Atiyesh, but it's more important that he is able to keep pressure on than he gets the most powerful minion.
This is exactly what we've been talking about, though, is the fact that if you're able to leverage your freezes to push damage and get a lot of tempo onto the board, that's where you can win as the mage. And if he draws Frost Nova or Primordial Glyphs to Frost Nova, he can keep freezing and push, what, 14 damage on board? That's half the Druid's life total at this point.
Right, and Purple needs to try and figure out how he can present enough threat to potentially force Tom to pull the trigger on a Kazakus potion, because he knows there is that potion waiting in the wings. Yeah. He has to be afraid that it is in fact a polymorph all. So if he goes all in a board with all of his Jade effects, there's the risk that all of his work is gone. So he needs to try to sequence his threats and spread them out such that Tom feels compelled to try and remove them, but without investing too much.
But at the same time, if he just plays like Jade Spirit, Jade Blossom, his opponent has the Frost Nova, he's going to receive a ton of damage. I think he feels like he has enough life to get away with that for a turn. And also, it conveniently shuts off an Alex Straza from ever being a good play if he ends up taking half his life total anyways.
Well,
that's a double Jade, by the way. A double
That
Jade
board
double.
might be big enough.
Big time board pressure coming in. No Frost Nova. There is that Kazakus potion, but if you Primordial Glyph and don't find anything, the Kazakus potion can't be played. So does he feel like he has to do it now?
It's also interesting because there are so many minions on Purple's side of the board. The Kazakus potion polymorphing may actually make it relatively easy for Tom to clear off all of the 1/1s on Tom's side of the board, as well as the 8/8. And if he just has 4 minions up, he can attack those 4 minions into the 8/8 and use Swipe and clear off Tom's entire board, and even be able to potentially develop more for himself. So I think Tom is trying to debate, A, do I feel the need to fire off this Kazakus potion here? And B, if I do, how do I want to go about doing this? Do I want to push all the damage first and just leave a bunch of 1/1s up? Or do I feel like it's better to potentially leave it so that, okay, I kill a couple of your guys who can't at least just wrath my 8/8 down. Yeah, he's going to go ahead and take out one of them. Leaves himself with 4 sheep versus 5 sheep. 4 sheep in an 8/8. It's a weird number because the 5 sheep still mean that Wrath can kill the 8/8 along with the other sheep. Obviously, Swipe can do so. And now
will do so.
Right, Purple can now attack all of these in if he wants, play Spreading Plague, and then Swipe. So he'll get 5 taunts, so that the minion-based damage from Tom is very difficult to get through at this point.
Right.
As well as clear off this entire board.
Yeah, I don't know if the 4 damage or the extra 1/1 would have made a significant difference there. But I do know the 4 damage could be relevant for the Mage. At the same time, he did have Alex Straza, and one thing also we haven't talked about is Tom doesn't have like this the security of Ice Block yet. So everything that Tom has been doing has to make sure that he's never in a position where he needs to promote Glyph for an Ice Block or Cabalstone for an Ice Block to make sure he can stay safe.
And Purple's basically at the point where he's almost guaranteed the ability to just keep casting Gigantic Jades every turn. There are 5 cards left in his deck. He has Fandral Nourish in his hand. So he does have the possibility of just starting that chain of reshuffling Jades, drawing Jades with those 2 Nourishes very soon.
Quarrel on a 1/5. Venomancer, that ends up trading really well with a lot of the Scarabs.
Yeah, there's Fandral plus Nourish. So Purple digging deep, finding Jade Idols that he can then reshuffle, plus make Jades.
Oh, gets it. Jade Idol, huge to be able to shuffle and develop at the same time.
I think he was guaranteed a Jade Idol with the number of cards in his deck. I think he had 2 Idols left in his deck. Because he had Shuffle.
Okay. I think there's no chance he could have missed.
I could be misremembering, but I thought he had 2.
And now the push from the Jade Druid has begun. Tom had almost everything he wanted, really, to be honest. He got a very clean Medivh off. Oh, wait, hold on. You were talking about Ink Master Solia and how it can be a big MVP in a lot of matchups like this.
It's too late for Ink Master Solia. You know, if he was able to Ink Master Solia a 10-mana board building potion early in the game, that's one of the ways that you can just run away against the Jade Druid. But at this point, there's very little you can do. You'd need to be able to repeatedly freeze your opponent's board to prevent you from dying, and then also somehow have enough burn to throw at your opponent's face when they have Malfurion available. Purple has drawn his entire deck. Now Tom doesn't have nearly enough pressure to actually threaten him. Interestingly, the fact that the Fandral died here means that Purple can play the Malfurion and still have board space to be able to play more Jade Golems. If he wants to get his armor up going, the bear tank, and that's a lot of big green men.
Agreed. Tom is staring down. Infinite damage.
He has
infinite life, an infinite card draw.
Yeah, he has another Blizzard, but he's going to have to Blizzard every single turn from here on out. There are just so many gigantic golems coming through from Purple's side. He doesn't have anywhere near enough burn to finish Purple off, still at 23 life. I think Purple's got this in the bag.
I don't know. This game, for some reason, felt so winnable for Tom. It almost felt like Purple was not going to be able to stabilize. Tom got Coin Medivh without any contest. And he was able to also go wide onto the board. He had Frostlich Jaina played at a safe time, not having to be threatened by his life total. Didn't even need Ice Block until this very moment where he has to like be careful not to die next turn.
It was actually shocking.
Despite all that.
It was shockingly powerful how good Purple's Spreading Plagues were.
Yeah.
Spreading Plague prevented a ton of damage to Purple. We talked about how usually it's not a particularly important card in this matchup, but it really kept Tom from getting any damage in with his minions that he was able to generate from that Medivh.
Wow.
And now Purple wins Game 3 and is 1 game away from the World Championship.
Crucial victory there, because if this game was dropped, then Purple will have to go up with Jade Druid against the Tempo Rogue. And that matchup can be really difficult for the Druid. Tempo Rogue has explosive turns, and you do have that very small window in the beginning, which you can punish heavily with Kel'Seth, Van Cleefs, South Sea Captains, you know the drill. 2-1 for Purple, and now 1 game away from going to the World Championships. from taking down the top-ranked player from Asia Pacific.
I am a very emotional Hearthstone player. I feel happy. I feel frustrated. I let it all out. I'm very expressive. I'm just... Yeah, you feel a bit of everything in a game of Hearthstone.
Moments ago, you saw Purple ask Tom what he played. And did Tom communicate it? And did Purple read it correctly? He absolutely did. It was a counter spell on a turn that Purple wanted to play Ultimate Infestation. And that's something that I'm curious I want to ask him about. And while we do play for pretty serious business, a spot in the World Championship, there's a $250,000 on the line this weekend. The moments took a time, or the players took a time to laugh at each other and enjoy the moment.
And Tom's not laughing right now, though. He is in some sort of Zen meditation, it looks like. I don't know if he's sort of resetting himself, trying to get focused for this next game, which could be his last here at the Summer Championship.
That's right. We are in Championship Sunday. It's win or go home. Purple's going to go to the Shaman deck. This should be Mage's best and most favorable matchup in theory. Now, there is a couple of those change-ups that we're talking about. Sea Giant, Kieran Bloodhoof. Only one Bloodlust in the deck, so it can't pressure nearly as much as it can. But Mage does have, in theory, a lot of those AoE clears to deal with Shaman for the entire game.
Yeah, and this is one of the better draws that Tom could hope for. Turn 2 Arcanologist with the Volcanic Potion already in his hand. He has a Galaka Crawler if Purple were to develop with Pirates. So good answers to all of the early game options that Purple has.
The important thing, in my opinion, the most MVP card is that Mana-Tide Totem for Purple, because Shaman is a lot like the Priest matchup. It's going to fight resource inefficiently many times against Mage. There should be able to go 2 for 1 at least for almost every one of their big area effect cards. But Mana-Tide Totem can allow Purple to extend onto the board while having to reload and eventually catch a wave of threats where Tom can't answer and then immediately finish the game.
Yeah, there's a couple of key phases. One is just the early aggression from the Shaman. How much damage can they get in? Does the Mage have the ability to answer it? Right now, if Purple does play that Bloodsail Corsair, he's in for a pretty rough surprise with the Galaka Crawler in Tom's hand. And right now, Purple doesn't have the big reload. The combination of Doppelgangster plus Evolve we've heard so much about over the course of the entirety of this deck's reign in Standard is very powerful against the Mage because the Mage relies on damage-based removal that can be very difficult to line up against all the possible results from the Evolve.
Purple does end up going for the Mana-Tide Totem, and this is also another inclusion that we were talking about that's not always standard in the Shaman deck. Because Barnes does have a lot of good hits. For now, Purple sees a perfect opportunity to utilize this Flame Tongue Totem.
And this is a situation that leaves Tom needing to deal with multiple things on the board. He'd love to be able to kill both the Flame Tongue and the Mana-Tide. He has a Galaka Crawler as well, and there's not that many Pirates in the deck. So Galaka Crawler, oh, he actually just picked up Blood Mage down. I was going to say the Galaka Crawler plus maybe a Frostbolt has to be at least somewhat enticing, but Blood Mage plus Volcanic Potion clears off the entire board.
It does. It draws a card, which helps him get a little bit deeper to the deck to find even more high-impact cards. One of the biggest, of course, is Fraudulous Jaina, because then Shaman can't really hero power until they get like Thrall Deathseer, and everything becomes a big threat. And in the end, the Galaka Crawler dealing 2 damage and becoming 3/4 isn't nearly as impactful as wiping the board against Shaman.
What's the Barnes result? Ooh, Aya off of Barnes is huge for Purple. He doesn't have Jades that are that big yet, but just being able to add up a little bit more to his Jade count over time can give him much more resilience to Tom's removal.
Purple has enough for the Sea Giant this turn.
And speaking of Jades adding up, there's a Jade Lightning to go with another Jade Lightning in the hand.
Shaman just wants to keep threatening Mage as much as it can. Mage can take all the time it wants in the world, but Shaman cannot.
And Tom does have Meteor to kill this Sea Giant. So he can remove the big threat from the board here if he chooses right now. He also could just use Firelance Portal. He can Firelance Portal and trade off his Galaka Crawler.
I think Meteor is just harder to use because Shaman always has like a lot of mid-sized threats, and Sea Giant is probably going to be the biggest the minion gets, barring an evolve. You can't always account for that.
And this Jade is a little bit bigger thanks to that Aya off of the Barnes.
Yeah.
Manatide going to provide a additional resource for Purple, as well as make things that much harder for Tom to potentially deal with. Ooh, the Medivh, though, from Tom can allow him to not just keep up with Purple with his removal spells, but take the opportunity to turn the tide. Medivh plus Firelens Portal is just an incredibly powerful removal combination.
Yeah.
It's a tough spot, though, because the Manatide Totem is certainly threatening to continue to generate resources for Purple, and if Tom does play the Medivh, he does fall a bit behind in terms of reacting to things, but I think pulling the trigger here, I like this from Tom, because he can't just scrape together removal after removal. He does need to turn things around eventually.
Yeah, it comes down to, are you okay with both of you getting more resources, or do you want to deny him resources just like you would yourself? The Firelens Portal is an extra minion, and Purple will get an extra card. In this case, Tom says, I think I can fight on pretty even grounds, even if he has an extra card. Whoa, Doppelgangster Evolve combination comes in Purple's hand.
Kazakus for Tom, though. Firelens Portal is going to generate a 5-drop and a 7-drop.
Corrupted Healbot helps Purple.
Corrupted Healbot's a good one, because Corrupted Healbot from Tom is the biggest 5-drop you can really expect to get. The Anaconda, though, you don't want none of that.
Yeah. Especially because there's no minion to pull out. If he had, say, Alex Straza, then that'd be the worst thing in the world if you lose its battle cry, because you get an 8/8 onto the field. Purple has the Doppelgangster Evolve we mentioned. I think no matter what he does, he would consider also if he wants to totem, but maybe he can also double Maelstrom Portal of some capacity as well. I don't know. This is such a tough situation here for Purple, because he realizes that if he loses the board from this point on, that could be it.
All right, well, Doppelball for Purple. Potentially a very big swing.
Yeah.
All stats. Oh, we did find a Shallow Gravedigger. The Inkmaster Solia.
Dream.
Inkmaster plus Kazakus. Kazakus for 10 here.
You have the ability, so in the vacuum, what you want to be able to do is Kazakus, get a 10-mana potion, Inkmaster Solia, play that 10-mana potion for free, but I don't know if he has enough time for a significant amount of pressure.
I think Tom is in a spot where he may be just playing Kazakus for 5 here, trying to find removal for this board. No AoE yet. There's the AoE for 4 on Fellbloom.
Is that a full clear? Think so.
He's able to attack into, he can kill all of Purple's minions on this board.
Oh, wait. The Inkmaster Solia gets
will
pulled.
come into play.
It's going to get pulled.
It will get pulled by the Anaconda dying.
It takes damage, but you still get a reasonable minion on board. Oh, man.
Weak resummons there for Tom.
Yeah, talk about like suboptimal on both sides
and
here.
this actually means that almost the entire board, you get an exploding bloat pat from the Shallow Gravedigger. Maelstrom Portal kills almost everything, but most of what Purple has in his hand are situational cards, and Tom just drew Jaina.
Yeah, that's going to be the beginning of the end here, unless Purple can somehow find a way to swing things once more. The important thing was, even if Tom gets a kind of a bad outcome from that Kazakus Potion summons, the reality is he's got a lot of resources, and that's where he recognized that even if he plays Medivh, even if his opponent gets a big Doppelgangster Evolve, as long as he can stabilize once, he should be able to win the resource battle. That Frostless Jaina is a testament to that.
Yeah, Jaina incredibly powerful against decks that have small minions, and Purple's deck's got a lot of those. 2 1-health minions in play. The Hero Power, which can generate a Searing Totem, Maelstrom Portal even. Devolve will at least clear off a little bit here. Doesn't change the stats too much, but does get rid of the life-stealing elemental at least. And Aya was frankly Purple's best draw. Aya gives Purple multiple threats here, neither of which are problematic for him against the Hero Power. And he's able to, thanks to the Bloatbat, potentially just clear off the whole board. I would
Do you
I would be
trade in the 2-1?
I would be surprised if he did not. Interesting. Okay.
He's going for a big bloodlust.
Yeah, I think here that's exactly what's happening. Purple is trying to set himself up so that he can have as wide a board as possible to get his bloodlust off to get damage in, but there's just not enough. You know, 4 minions.
Yeah, 11 damage, assuming the 2-1 dies, plus the 9, so that's 20. And even if he got Flame Tongue Totem or Jade, I think he used both of his Jade Lightning. It ends up becoming a little too short. Unless, no, there's no 2 Bloodlusts because he only has 1 in his deck list.
Only a single bloodlust in Purple's deck.
Another Flame Strike.
And even just Counterspell to stop a potential bloodlust. There's not that many spells in Purple's deck. He's already played 2 Jade Lightnings. He's already played 2 Maelstrom Portals. I believe there's Evolve, a Devolve, and a Bloodlust left in Purple's deck. And here, Doomsayer just trying to absorb damage for Tom. And it will currently, on this board, absorb 10. There's the other Devolve, though. Purple can Bloodlust and push for 20. He can then devolve this board, which will prevent the life steal and also prevent the Doomsayer from going off. But that still leaves Tom at 6 life.
Yeah, I mean, at 6 life, you don't have any way to draw and win the game immediately, barring an Evolve to immediately pressure your opponent with, like, Leroy, for example. 1 health minions, gets to trade off one of his minions as well. Just deny any flame, or, sorry, any water elementals.
Polymorph the draw for Tom that can answer the Aya and generate a water elemental. We see Purple in pain. Doesn't even decide a water elemental. He just wants to clear this board off.
I mean, the reality is Purple,
he's out.
He's covered a lot of ways.
So few cards that do enough left here.
Oh!
Yeah, we see again Purple
dagger in the heart.
Pain, as Searing Totem means there is a 1 health minion for Tom to ping.
It's the twisting of the knife. We know that Tom is very much safe. And, oh my goodness.
Lyra.
Even more ways to generate spells.
That's fancy.
It's really fancy. What if Lyra gets Raza and Anduin?
Go on. You can't
actually, even just getting...
It's pre-spells. You can't do that.
Oh, it's pre-spells. What if it gets a way to generate that somehow? I don't know. I don't know if there can be.
Yeah, there's nothing.
The only reason why is because I saw Just Saying tweet that he got Raza the Chain in one of his Highlander mage decks. He was like, well, what if...
Oh, I've
had that. And it was a really funny picture that I was like...
Okay, Thrall. Thrall was the out for Purple here. It potentially could give him enough threat.
I mean, I'm looking at like a big 8-mana minion here. Like Tyrion could potentially pull it back in. Perhaps even better.
The Lich King!
All right. The Grave Shambler works with the Jade Gloves too. That's pretty funny.
Death Grip is pretty interesting. He could steal the Alexstrasza from Tom.
That Lich King ain't
there is no removal for the Lich King here. Tom is going to have to leave our former crown.
Oh, wait. You're right. The Alexstrasza's not played. So he could just steal it. And I don't know many more
There's Doppelgangster too.
What on earth? Debated. The counter spell to stop the Death Grip. But the problem still exists here. Lich King is not dealt with.
Purple knows that Flame Strike is almost certainly waiting in Tom's hand.
That's
because
true.
There's very few cards left in Tom's deck, so he decides he does not want to Doppelgangster up. That minion did not change much.
Debated again.
Anti-Magic Shell is incredibly powerful. But and if Tom commits Flame Strike now, he could just Doppelgangster Anti-Magic Shell. get 4/4/4s that can't be targeted.
Yeah, but he has a water element.
It will give a water elemental after this, it's true.
Yeah. This is something that you made a very good point. But I think Purple said, I value the Lich King. He could also not have Flame Strike. I'm going to take my odds. The anti-magic shell, though, also does a very funny thing, which prevents Purple from evolving the doppelgangers.
It's true. It's true. He cannot evolve. Tom cannot ping. No spells can target them.
We're in uncharted waters here.
I was going to say, this
no
is
one
not,
has
this
ever
is not
practiced
a,
this
situation that's come up before in my experience.
I don't care how many games of Hearthstone you played, you cannot tell me that there's a practice scenario like this. And you have to improvise.
I mean, is this a position that Purple feels like he can try and go long against Tom? Realistically, I don't think he can.
Does he have another Evolve in his deck? He's
No,
going to go straight up for Savannah Highway.
Ooh, it doesn't get much better than that at 6 mana.
How much damage is this in Bloodlust? There's 10 on the board, plus the 9 from Bloodlust, so it's 19, plus the weapon is 21, plus Flame Tongue is 25. Or actually anti-magic shell as well. So there's enough if Tom does not take this seriously, but he should clear off at least 1 minion here and gain 3 life. So it seems like Tom is safe. Aggressive push from Tom. He's gonna Alex Straws a Purple down to just 20 health. And say your move.
Oh, there is another Evolve. I thought he had played one.
He played
All
one
right.
Evolve. Now he can Flame Tongue.
He can Flame Tongue.
Trade.
Could Flame Tongue anti-magic shell.
We can Flame Tongue trade.
Or Flame Tongue
Magic Shell.
Bloodlust.
Oh, no. Flame Tongue trade. Evolve a minion, Doppelgangster, anti-magic shell, evolve again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this works. This goes very wide for Purple here, clearing off the 8/8 as well.
Yeah, if you guys skipped your science class, we're gonna have another lesson right here in front of you. Oh, he's not gonna go for the greedy play.
Well, this allows him to get rid of the water elemental, which represents potential repeated life gain for Tom.
True, true.
The elements are silent.
Get anti-magic shell now.
Line that doesn't want to evolve.
Okay.
And because of it, his opponent can't ping. He keeps
Yeah.
Doppelgangster on the board.
Blizzard can shut down quite a bit of this, at least the immediate threat.
Yeah, the immediate damage is gone. And I think Purple was trying to count how much damage he would have again with the Bloodlust. 6, 10, 12, plus 9, 21, 23. It wouldn't be enough. And remember, both these guys are also factoring what they haven't drawn yet as a way to calculate lethal. Purple still has Karen Bloodhoof, for example, as a way for him to get a big minion on board. There's still some big draws here from Purple. And Tom is running out of cards as well.
That play from Purple last turn, like I wonder if he would have been better off just trading that Doppelgangster off, then casting Evolve, potentially upgrading something, and then playing the anti-magic shell. He could have still killed the water elemental. And then but he just have a much more threatening board with anti-magic shell on it.
I think he's waiting for Evolve to be another wave. What Purple only has 2 or 3 cards in his hand. I think he's trying to budget it and not go like all in, so to speak. But he's trying to get as much value as he can out of every minion. So even if Doppelgangster just becomes a 4/4, things from below, that's another thing that he can go for a big swing. Does he want a single target evolve? Does he want to just evolve across the board here? Pass! No evolve whatsoever.
Medivh's Valet is important. It is something that can target the anti-magic shelled minions.
Yeah, and Tom kind of took a little bit of risk here, like with the Acolyte maybe drawing multiple cards, but he also realized that that 1 damage can matter for helping him get an ideal situation for Water Elemental. And Frostless Jaina, let's be very real, can survive through fatigue very easily if it's able to get a Water Elemental train.
Ice Block is at the point where it doesn't do very much, simply because the Ice Block is unable to keep you alive from fatigue, and Tom has 1 card left in his deck and an Acolyte in play.
Yeah. Tom could have played a secret, Badi's valet traded the Acolyte and pinged the thing from below. Instead, he chooses to remove 2 minions this turn with the Fireball instead, and opted not to hero power. And if there's anything that I've learned from Death Knight battles, is that every time you choose not to hero power, you're losing on potential value that can change the game. So this is something that Tom has assessed, and I'm not sure what to think about it.
Water Elemental is crucially important here because Tom is running out of resources in his deck that do anything. He has 1 card left. You know, he has a Greater Arcane Missiles, which is a powerful card here.
Yeah. Oh, wait, I think Purple has also recognized something. That Tom has no more minions to play.
He does have this Greater Arcane Missiles, which can take out this Hyena.
Yeah, but if he never plays anything,
Right.
Tom can't ever get the Water Elemental.
Right.
And Purple's also going to be on fatigue soon too.
Look at Tom's head is in his lap now. He seems like
I think
despondent here.
He realized that he didn't give a chance to get a Water Elemental on the board, and I think he probably thought that his last card would have a higher impact than Ice Barrier. And Purple can keep evolving things to get things out of the 1 health range, except for this 1 card that Purple does not know about, which is the Cabal's Tome getting the Greater Arcane Missiles.
That anti-magic shell from that Lich King, from that Evolve.
He's gonna try to just burn him down. It just kills Karen, which is kind of what Purple was hoping for. It just absorbed damage. Tom may have realized that this was too much.
Tom has nothing. He has Ice Block in hand. Ice Block does nothing. He is in fatigue. He's out of ways to win. Purple is pushing.
And Purple doesn't have to evolve. In fact, he should not evolve because he increases his chance a 1 health minion comes out the other side. Tom concedes. Purple is advancing to the World Championship.
That was such a crazy game, and we talk about how Purple has such great intuition, such great theoretical understanding of the game. That was such an unusual situation in those late turns. He understood what he needed to do and fatigued the control mage with Shaman.
Firebat told me that there is no one in the world better than Purple at playing fatigue scenarios. And we talked about Uncharted Waters. That was so weird, and the entire sequence from the evolves, from the board, everything, and Purple played it masterfully, and you can see the relief on his face. He's going to the World Championship, and he could not be more delighted.
He talked about how he's such an expressive player, and he is so happy. His practice partner for this event, Orange, comes up and gives him a huge hug.
I should have gotten the bloodlust counter spell, eh? Probably,
yeah. And even in this moment, what could I have done better?
Yeah. What should I have done to increase my chances and percentages even further? The first person through to the World Championship in summer is Purple from Canada. TJ is waiting for a couple of words.
That's right, I'm joined on stage by Purple, and the big question here, how does it feel to make it back to the World Championship?
I'm surprised I don't have tears in my eyes.
This feels great.
It does, and what are you most excited for? I know it's sort of your shot at redemption. We talked a lot about how it felt for you to go to the World Championship. You thought you were the best player in the world at that point. How does it feel to go back, and what are you most looking forward to?
What I'm most looking forward to is just beating Orange in finals. Easy 3-0.
He just came up and gave you a hug, and you want to beat him?
Well, I want him in the finals, so I can 3-0 him in the finals. Isn't that fair?
I guess so. That would also mean he goes to the World Championship. Fair enough. I want to talk about that last game just for a few moments. Have you ever been in that type of situation with Shaman? It's a crazy, you're playing against Kazaka's mage, one of the craziest outcomes of a match. Walk me through what we were thinking during that game.
I got really confused. I was like, Lich King, that does things that's not in my deck that can win me the game. Don't touch, and then the untargetable things because you can't ping him, so you can't make any water elementals. I was holding back because he had a 1 Cabalist Tome card left. It could have been an entity, or 2 Cabalist Tome cards left, so I was just waiting for entity. But I figured because I was just fatiguing him at that point, so Shaman's a fatigue deck. I guess.
Well, at least in this instance, it was. And you're sort of like a wise sage that comes down from your hut in the mountains whenever you feel like it's necessary to come and try and show people how to play Hearthstone again. You've also helped a lot of people practice along the way. Do you have any wise words that you'd like to give aspiring competitive players if they want to qualify for 2 World Championships?
Twitch TV/Kriparian.
Hearthstone superstar, Kriparian. You heard it here first. And you obviously have a lot of fans here and a lot of people supporting you at home. Is there any message you'd like to give to your fans or anybody you'd like to thank for making it to the World Championship?
Thanks for like the 8 people who like were in Skype calls with me in the last 2 weeks. So like Crane, Ike, Webecca, a bunch of others, too many to name. And Orange, of course. Thanks for people who voted me for PAX. Really an encouragement. I had to perform for you guys and for myself because I voted for myself. I needed that 3rd pack. I don't have a full collection yet, so working on it.
All right, well, I hope you can get there before the World Championship so you can actually practice effectively. Once again, a big round of applause for Purple, headed to the World Championship in Amsterdam. Again, congratulations. You still got some work to do, though, so I'll let you go and prepare, but let's send it back over to the desk.